Listen, I have been in the Caltharian Imperial Navy for 16 cycles now. 16. That is a long time to be shooting at things that shoot back. Long enough to know when something smells wrong, and let me tell you, this whole situation reeked worse than a Vorgin refused barge in summer. My name is Krell. Just Krell. No fancy titles, no complicated lineage markers that take half a rotation to pronounce. I am a squad leader. Was a squad leader? The grammar gets complicated when you are not entirely sure you are going to make it out of a situation alive. But I am getting ahead of myself. The briefing room on the orbital station hummed with its usual background noise. The ventilation systems, computer banks, the occasional creak of metal adjusting to temperature changes. Commander Voss stood at the front, her three eyes scanning the assembled troops with that look she got when the brass had handed her a truly idiotic mission. So she began, tapping the holographic display with one of her secondary manipulators. We have a problem. I leaned over to Tark, my second in command. When does she ever call us in to say we have a solution? Tark's mandibles clicked in what passed for a chuckle among his species. Fair point. Voss continued, either not hearing me or choosing to ignore it. Smart female, that one. 72 hours ago, a human military unit, designation Tiger Squad, went missing in the contested zone of planet R779. The hologram shifted, showing a miserable-looking rock of a world. Gray, brown, more gray. Some sickly greenish vegetation that looked like it was only growing out of spite. Lovely vacation spot, I muttered. The humans have requested our assistance in locating their missing personnel, Voss said, and I swear I saw her third eye twitch. That was never a good sign. Which, considering we are currently at war with them, is irregular to say the least. Zareth, one of the younger soldiers in the back, raised a foreclaw. Commander, are we not supposed to be killing humans, not rescuing them? The ceasefire agreement signed 8 days ago suggests otherwise, recruit, Voss replied dryly. Try to keep up with current events. Right, the ceasefire. That shiny new treaty that neither side trusted worth a damn, but both were too exhausted to ignore. Turned out that fighting humans was harder than the Empire's strategists had predicted. Much, much harder. Who knew that a species that evolved from persistence hunters would be so stupidly persistent? Our intelligence indicates that Tiger Squad was investigating unusual energy readings in Sector 47, Voss went on. They stopped transmitting approximately 68 hours ago. No distress signal, no final communication. Nothing. I did not like the sound of that. Humans were chatty, annoyingly so. They had communications protocols for their communications protocols. Radio silence from a human unit usually meant one of two things. They were all dead, or they were so deep in trouble that breaking silence would make things worse. Now, Voss said, and her tone shifted to that special flavor of annoyed that meant the truly stupid part was coming. The High Command, in their infinite wisdom, has decided that we should send a team to locate Tiger Squad. We, I repeated slowly, as in us, the Caltharians, should go find the humans, who we were shooting at last week. 10 days ago, actually, Voss corrected. But yes, you, specifically Krell, your squad has been volunteered. Of course we had. I closed my eyes briefly, which meant I also closed my auxiliary sensory ports, which was always disorienting. Your commander, with respect, why would the humans ask us for help? They hate us. We hate them. It is a very mutual arrangement we have going. Voss pulled up another image. This one showed a Caltharian military designation. Because 70 hours ago, before Tiger Squad went missing, a Caltharian reconnaissance team, Talon unit, also went dark in the same sector. Same energy readings. Same absolute silence. The room got very quiet. So this is not a rescue mission, Tark said quietly. This is a recovery mission. For both sides. Officially, yes, Voss agreed. Unofficially, this is a figure out what in the name of the First Mothers is happening in that sector before it happens to anyone else mission. I sat back in my seat. Wonderful. Just wonderful. When do we leave? 2 hours, Voss said. You will be accompanied by a human liaison team. 2 soldiers. They will meet you at the shuttle bay. Oh, that was just getting better and better. Not only were we going into whatever mysterious death trap had eaten 2 squads, but we were doing it with humans tagging along. Any idea what the energy readings actually are? I asked. Nest. Boss's expression did something complicated. No. They do not match any known weapons signatures, natural phenomena, or technology in our databases, or the human databases, according to their intelligence services. Of course they don't, I said, because that would be too easy. 2 hours later, I stood in Shuttle Bay 3 with my squad. 7 Caltharians, all veterans, all looking about as thrilled with this assignment as I felt. Tark was checking equipment with his usual methodical precision. Yenna, our tech specialist, was already integrating with the shuttle's computer systems, her neural interface cables snaking out of her cranial ports. Rax and Joff, the heavy weapons twins, were arguing quietly about ammunition loads. Prella, our medic, was organizing supplies with the kind of focused intensity that suggested she expected to use all of them. Voss, not the commander but a different one, our pilot, was doing pre-flight checks. And then the humans arrived. I had seen humans before, obviously. Hard to fight a war against someone without seeing them. But seeing them across a battlefield through a targeting scope was different from having them walk right up to you in a shuttle bay. They were short. That was the first thing that always struck me. Caltharians averaged about 7 feet in height. These humans barely cleared 6 feet, and that was with their boots on. They wore standard Earth military gear, all camouflage patterns and equipment webbing. No helmets yet, so I could see their faces clearly. One was male, built like he was designed to run through walls. Broad shoulders, thick neck, the kind of muscular development that suggested a high-gravity homeworld and a love of physical training. His skin was dark, his hair was cut military short, and his eyes were a startling light brown color that seemed to catch the shuttle bay lights. The other was female, leaner, with medium-toned skin and dark hair pulled back in a tight configuration at the back of her head. Her eyes were darker, almost black, and they moved constantly, taking in everything around her with the kind of awareness that marked experienced soldiers. "You must be Krell," the male said, walking forward with his hand extended in that bizarre human greeting gesture. I looked at the hand, looked at him. "That depends. Are you here to shoot me or shake my appendage?" He grinned. Actually grinned. "Shooting you is last week's mission. I'm Lieutenant Davis Cole. This is Sergeant Raina Swift." I reached out and clasped his hand briefly. Humans liked physical contact in a way that always made me slightly uncomfortable. Too many fingers. "Krell, squad leader. These are my people." I gestured to my team. Tark, second in command. Yenna, tech. Rax and Joff, heavy weapons. Prella, medic. Voss, pilot. "Two Vosses?" Cole asked. "Very popular name last generation," I explained. "It's confusing at reunions." Swift stepped forward, her eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that was almost physical. "Your commander briefed you on the situation?" "2 squads missing, weird energy signatures, probable death trap, the usual," I said. "You? Well, about the same," she replied. "Plus the added fun detail that the last partial transmission we got from Tiger Squad was someone screaming about the walls." "The walls," I repeated. "The walls," she confirmed. "What about the walls?" "That is where the transmission cut off." "Fantastic. Just fantastic. All aboard who is coming aboard," Voss the pilot called out from the shuttle. "We have a launch window in 5 minutes." We loaded up. The shuttle interior was cramped with 9 bodies and all our gear, but Caltharian military transports were designed for worse. Cole and Swift strapped themselves into seats near the rear, and I noticed they positioned themselves so they could watch both my squad and the exit. Smart. Manned. The launch was smooth. Voss was a good pilot, which was why she was still alive after 12 years of military service. We cleared the station, cleared the orbital traffic patterns, and angled down toward the planet below. AR-779 looked even worse from orbit than it had in the hologram. Atmospheric storms churned across the northern hemisphere. The southern continent was a mass of volcanic activity. The only remotely habitable zone was a narrow equatorial band, and even that was mostly swamp and jungle and things that wanted to kill you. Beautiful place, Cole commented. Really rolls out the welcome mat. The Empire has 347 colony worlds, I said. This is not in the top 300. So why fight over it? Swift asked. Good question. Strategic location. Hyperspace lane convergence point. Whoever controls this system controls shipping routes for 6 sectors. Ah, she said. The usual stupid reasons. I found myself liking her a little bit. The shuttle shuddered as we hit atmosphere. Voss compensated smoothly, adjusting our angle of descent. The viewscreen showed clouds, then more clouds, then finally a break that revealed jungle canopy stretching to the horizon. Approaching last known coordinates of Talon Unit, Voss announced, setting down at the designated landing zone. The LZ was a clearing about 200 meters from where Talon Unit's last transmission had originated. Someone, probably human orbital reconnaissance, had already surveyed it and marked it as secure. Which, in my experience, meant it was probably only mostly deadly instead of immediately fatal. We touched down with barely a bump. Was showing off now. All right, people, I said, standing up and checking my weapon. Standard sweep pattern. Tark, take point with Yenna. Rax, Joff, flanks. Prella, center with me. Boss, you are staying with the shuttle. And us? Cole asked. I looked at the 2 humans. You are going to stay in the middle of the formation and try not to shoot any of my people by accident. We can work with that, Swift said, checking her own rifle. Human weapons. Kinetic projectiles. Loud, messy, and disturbingly effective. The shuttle ramp lowered, and we moved out into the jungle. The smell hit me first. Rot and growth and something else, something I could not quite identify. The air was thick, humid, clinging to my breathing membranes like wet cloth. The temperature had to be at least 35 degrees standard, uncomfortable for Caltharians. Probably normal for humans who came from a world that was essentially a pressure cooker. The jungle canopy was thick overhead, filtering the sunlight into a greenish twilight. The vegetation pressed in from all sides. Things moved in the undergrowth. Things that skittered and slithered and made sounds that raised every combat instinct I had. We moved in formation, weapons ready, every sense alert. Tark's scanner beeped softly, painting the terrain ahead in false color on his heads-up display. "To contact," he said quietly. 50 meters, bearing 090, metallic signature. We adjusted course. The jungle seemed to get quieter as we moved, which was somehow worse than noise. Quiet meant predators. Quiet meant something had scared everything else into silence. And then we found it. Talon Unit's equipment was scattered across a small clearing. Weapons. A communications array that had been torn apart with what looked like considerable violence. But no bodies, no blood, no sign of the soldiers themselves. Spread out, I ordered. Yenna, see if you can pull anything from that comm unit. Everyone else, search pattern. The squad moved efficiently, checking the area, weapons tracking for threats. Cole and Swift stayed near me, their eyes scanning the jungle edge. I knelt beside one of the packs. Standard Caltharian military issue. The identification tag read Jor. I had known Jor. We had served together on the Vindication 3 years ago. He was a good soldier. Careful. Not the type to abandon his gear. Krell, Yenna called out. You need to see this. I moved to where she crouched over the remains of the communications array. Her interface cables were plugged into the unit's memory core, and her eyes had that distant look that meant she was processing data directly. What have you got? Last transmission, she said. Partial. Most of it is corrupted, but I am pulling fragments. She played it. The voice was distorted, broken up, but recognizable. Jor. Talon leader to base, we have situation the structures they are not, repeat, not on the survey maps we are, investigating, wait, something the walls they are, no, that is not possible, fall back, static. Then nothing. The walls, Swift said quietly from behind me. Same as Tiger Squad. I stood up slowly. Yenna, he said, structures. What structures? This sector was surveyed. Nothing but jungle. I am checking the planetary database now, Yenna replied, her fingers moving across her portable terminal. Negative. No structures listed within 50 kilometers. Then what was Jor looking at? Tark asked. That was the question, was it not? Sir, Rax called from the edge of the clearing. You need to see this. We moved to his position. He was pointing at the jungle floor. Marks in the soil. Deep. Regular. Not animal tracks. Not vehicle treads. What made those? Cole asked. I have no idea, I admitted. But whatever it was big, and it walked on 2 legs. The marks led away from the clearing, deeper into the jungle, toward the sector where both squads had vanished. Well, I said, checking my weapons charge. I suppose we follow the creepy footprints into the dark jungle. That has never gone wrong in any horror story ever. You have horror stories? Swift asked, surprised. Every species has horror stories, Sergeant. We just usually try not to live them. We followed the trail. It was not hard. Whatever had made the marks had not been trying to hide its passage. Broken vegetation, disturbed soil, and that smell getting stronger, that unidentifiable something that made my skin crawl. The jungle got darker, denser. The canopy overhead closed in until we were moving through green-tinged shadows. The sounds changed too. Less animal noises, more of that oppressive silence that screamed danger to every survival instinct. Energy readings spiking, Yenna reported, her voice tight. Same signature as the original reports. Source is approximately 100 meters ahead. We slowed, weapons up, scanning arcs overlapping. Professional. Careful. And then the jungle just ended. One moment, we were pushing through dense vegetation. The next, we stepped into a clearing, and the clearing was wrong. The ground was smooth. Too smooth. Not natural rock, not packed earth, but something else, something that looked almost like metal but was not quite. It stretched for 50 meters in every direction, a perfect circle cut into the jungle. And in the center of the clearing stood a structure. It rose about 40 feet into the air, a twisted spiral of the same, not quite metal material. The surface was covered in markings that might have been writing, or might have been decoration, or might have been something else entirely. And it hummed. A low, subsonic vibration that I felt in my bones more than heard. What in the name of? Tark breathed. Yeah, Cole said quietly. That is not in any survey. We approached slowly, weapons trained on the structure. Nothing moved. Nothing attacked. Just that constant humming rising and falling in a pattern that almost seemed musical. Yenna, what are we looking at? She was scanning frantically, her equipment going wild with readings. I do not know. The energy signature is off the scale. The material is not in any database. The structure itself is old, Krell. Really old. The dating algorithms are giving me estimates in the hundreds of thousands of years. That is not possible, I said. AR-779 was surveyed 6 times. Someone would have noticed a hundreds of thousands-year-old structure. Maybe, Swift said slowly, it was not here before. We all looked at her. The energy readings started 4 days ago, she continued. Your unit went missing 3 days ago. Ours 2 days ago. What if this thing just appeared? Structures do not just appear, Rax protested. On any normal day, I would agree with you, Cole said. But I am getting a real strong feeling that this is not a normal day. I approached the structure, my scanner extended. The readings made no sense. Energy output fluctuating wildly, temperature inconsistent. And that humming getting louder, or maybe I was just noticing it more. "Sir," Prella called out. "Over here." She was standing at the base of the structure, looking down at something. We moved to join her. Equipment. Human and Caltharian mixed together. Weapons. Packs. A human helmet with a tiger painted on the side. Tiger Squad. And Caltharian gear with Talon unit designations. But still no bodies. "They made it this far," Swift said quietly. "And then what?" "Krell," Yenna said, her voice strange, "and the markings on the structure. I am running them through the linguistic database. And they are translating. Fragments. The language is ancient, pre-Empire, but the database has partial matches." "What does it say?" She looked up at me, her 3 eyes wide. "It says, those who enter return changed. It says, the walls between worlds are thin here. It says, beware the crossing." "Right, of course it did." "I vote we leave," Joff said. "I vote we leave right now and call in an orbital strike on this whole area." It was not a bad idea, honestly. But we had a mission. 2 squads were missing. And something about this structure, something about those warnings, suggested that just walking away was not going to solve the problem. I was about to say something when the humming changed. It did not get louder. It got different. The pitch shifted, rising, falling, creating harmonics that should not have been possible. And the surface of the structure began to glow. Falling back, I ordered, "Everyone, fall back now." We moved fast, weapons still trained on the structure. The glow intensified, spreading across the markings, filling them with light that hurt to look at. And then, from inside the structure, we heard voices. Human voices. Caltharian voices. All talking at once, overlapping, echoing. Words I could not quite make out. Screaming that was not quite screaming. Laughter that was not quite laughter. "What is that?" Cole demanded, his rifle up, tracking the sound. "I think," I said slowly, "that might be our missing squads." The voices grew louder, more distinct. I heard Jor's voice, heard other members of Talon unit, heard what sounded like humans calling for help. And then the structure opened. Not a door, not a hatch. The surface just rippled like water and became transparent, and we could see inside. On the walls. Jor had been right. It was the walls. Inside the structure, space twisted. Impossible angles. Corridors that led in directions that should not exist. And in those corridors, moving, searching, calling out, were figures. Soldiers. Human and Caltharian. Tiger Squad and Talon unit. They were alive. Moving, but something was wrong with them. They looked stretched. Distorted. Like reflections in warped glass. "Oh, hell no," Swift whispered. One of the figures turned. Looked at us. It had Jor's face, but wrong somehow. With the proportions off. The eyes too large. And when it smiled, it had too many teeth. "Krell," it said, in Jor's voice but layered with something else. "You came. How nice. Come inside. The walls are so thin here. You can see everything. You can be everywhere." "It is wonderful. It is terrible. It is." The other voices drowned him out, all talking at once, human and Caltharian, words blending together until they became noise. "We are leaving," I said firmly. "We are leaving right now." But when I turned to give the order, I stopped, because the jungle behind us had changed. The trees were wrong. The angles were wrong. And the clearing we had come from, the shuttle, everything was just gone. Instead, there were more structures. Dozens of them? Hundreds. Stretching off into a distance that seemed to curve in on itself. And from every structure, voices called out. Hundreds of voices. Thousands, all saying the same things. "Come inside. The walls are thin. You can see everything. Come inside." "We have a problem," Tark said quietly. And that, as it turned out, was the understatement of the century. So here is a fun fact about crisis situations. When everything goes completely sideways, when reality itself decides to take a holiday, and when you are surrounded by impossible structures filled with your friends who are not quite your friends anymore, the brain does this interesting thing. It just sort of freezes up for a moment while it tries to process how thoroughly screwed you are. My brain was doing that right now. "Okay," I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. "Okay, new plan. We are not panicking." "I am panicking a little bit," Joff admitted. "Panic quietly, then," I snapped. "Yenna, scanner. Tell me what we are looking at." Yenna's hands were shaking as she checked her equipment. Not good. Yenna never shook. Spatial distortion. Massive. The readings are similar to hyperspace transition effects but localized and unstable. Krell, the structures are not just appearing. They are pulling through from somewhere else. Pulling through from where? Somewhere else, she repeated. That is the best answer I can give you. Another dimension. Another reality. Somewhere that is not here. Cole stepped up beside me, his rifle tracking across the impossible landscape. This happened to our people. They came here, found the first structure, and then got caught when more appeared. Seems likely, I agreed. Question is, how do we avoid the same fate? By shooting things until they stop being weird? Rax suggested hopefully. I appreciate your optimism, but I do not think we can shoot our way out of a spatial anomaly. The voices from the structures were getting louder, more insistent. I could pick out individual words now. Help us. Save us. Join us. Come inside. Over and over, blending together into a chorus that made my head hurt. Swift was moving around the perimeter of our group, her weapon up, eyes scanning. The original structure. The one we found first. It is still there. Still solid. The others, they are flickering. Phasing in and out. She was right. I could see it now. The newer structures were less stable, their edges blurring, their surfaces rippling. But that first tower, the ancient one covered in warnings, that one stayed constant. The original is the anchor, I said slowly, thinking it through. It was here first. The others are echoes or copies or, I do not know, but they are less real. So if we can disable the original, Tark followed my logic, maybe the others collapse. Or maybe we all get pulled into whatever nightmare dimension they came from, Prella pointed out. Just putting that option on the table. Your optimism is noted, I told her. One of the figures inside the nearest structure pressed against the transparent surface. Human. Female. Young. Her face was distorted, but her name tag was still visible. Wells. Part of Tiger Squad, probably. Please, she said, and her voice echoed strangely. Please help us. We are stuck. We cannot get out. The walls keep moving. They keep changing. We have been walking for days. For weeks. For minutes. Time is wrong here. Everything is wrong. Please. Cole swore under his breath. That is Private Elena Wells. She was with us on the orbital station. Good kid. Fast learner. If we go in after them, we get stuck too, I said. It was not a question. Probably, Yenna confirmed. The spatial distortion inside the structures is extreme. Once you cross that threshold, I do not think you can find your way back out. The geometry is non-Euclidean. Paths do not lead where they should. Swift looked at Cole. Something passed between them, some kind of human communication thing that did not need words. We are not leaving our people, Cole said flatly. I was not suggesting we leave ours either, I replied. But we need a plan better than walk in and hope for the best. I am open to suggestions, he said. I looked at Yenna. The warnings on the original structure. The walls between worlds are thin here. Beware the crossing. What if the walls can be crossed both ways? Her eyes widened. You want to make the barrier stronger. Thicken the walls. Force the structures back to wherever they came from. Can we do that? I have absolutely no idea, she admitted. But theoretically, if we can disrupt the energy field the original structure is generating, we might destabilize the whole network. Might, I repeated. Science is not an exact field when dealing with interdimensional invasions, she said defensively. Fair point. All right, I said. Here is what we are going to do. Yenna, you and Prella figure out how to shut down or disrupt that structure. Rax, Joff, you are on perimeter security. Keep anything weird away from them. Tark, Swift, Cole, you are with me. What are we doing? Tark asked. Something stupid, I said. We are going to try to communicate with our people inside. See if they can help us from their side. That is stupid, Tark agreed. I am in. We approached the original structure carefully, weapons ready, every sense alert. The humming was louder here, vibrating through the not-quite-metal surface. The transparent section showed those twisting corridors inside, and I could see figures moving in the distance. Jor, I called out. Jor, can you hear me? The movement stopped. One of the figures turned, moved closer. It was Jor, or what was left of him. His form flickered, solid one moment, translucent the next. His face was his own but stretched somehow, as if he existed in more dimensions than he should. Krell, he said, and his voice came from everywhere and nowhere. You should not have come. You should run, but you cannot run now. The walls are open. The crossing has begun. What crossing? I demanded. What is happening? We found it, Jor said. We found the structure. We thought it was a weapon. Ancient technology. We went inside to investigate. But it is not a weapon. It is a door. And we opened it. Another figure approached. Human. Male. Bull. His uniform marked him as lieutenant, and his name tag said Torres, Tiger Squad's leader. We tried to leave, Torres said, his voice echoing like Jor's. As soon as we realized what it was, we tried to leave. But the door does not open from inside, only from outside, and once you are in, you are part of it, part of the crossing. The crossing between what? Cole asked, his voice tight. Between now and then, Torres replied. Between here and there. This structure, it is a bridge, built by something old, something that existed before our civilizations, before our species. They built doors between realities, be possibilities, and we activated it. How do we deactivate it? Swift asked. Torres laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. You cannot. Once opened, the door stays open until the crossing is complete, until everything that can cross has crossed. That is not helpful, I said. I know, Jor said, and for a moment, just a moment, he sounded like himself. Krell, you need to disrupt the power source. It is at the center of the structure, but you cannot reach it from outside. The defenses will stop you. Then how do we reach it? From inside, he said quietly. Someone has to go in, follow the path, reach the core, and overload it. And whoever goes in gets trapped, I finished. Yes. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. There has to be another way, Tark said. There is not, Torres said. We have had days, weeks, years, we do not know how long, to think about it. This is the only way. Someone goes in, someone stops it from the inside, and everyone else gets to leave. I looked at the structure, at the impossible corridors inside, at my squad behind me, at the humans who had gone from enemies to allies in the span of a few hours. Krell, Yenna called out. I have been analyzing the energy patterns. They are right. The power source is at the center, and it is shielded. I cannot disrupt it from out here. Someone would have to physically access the core and cause a cascade failure. Of course they would. How long do we have? I asked. The structures are multiplying, she said. In approximately 30 minutes, there will be too many. The spatial distortion will become permanent. Everything within a 100-kilometer radius will be pulled into the crossing. 30 minutes. Not a lot of time to decide who was going to sacrifice themselves. I will go, Cole said immediately. No, Swift countered. I am faster. I will go. Nobody is going alone, I said firmly. This is not a solo mission. We need someone who knows Caltharian tech and someone who knows human tech. And we need someone who can fight if things go wrong inside. So a team, Tark said. A small team, I agreed. 2 people, 1 human, 1 Caltharian. In and out fast. You are describing yourself and one of us, Cole said. I am the squad leader. It is my responsibility. Actually, Swift said, I am the one who has done the most zero-gravity combat training. If spatial geometry is weird in there, that training transfers. I am the logical choice. She was right. I hated it, but she was right. Fine, I said. Swift and I go in. Everyone else, you give us 15 minutes. If we are not out by then, Yenna triggers whatever backup plan she can come up with to destabilize this thing from outside. That will not work, Yenna protested. Then we better be fast, I said. Cole stepped in front of Swift. I do not like this. Noted, she said. But you know I am right. He stared at her for a long moment, then nodded. 15 minutes. Then we are coming in after you. You really are not, I said. Because if we fail, you need to get everyone else out of the blast radius and orbital strike this entire sector into glass. Tark gripped my shoulder with one of his manipulators. Do not die in there? That is the plan, I assured him. I turned to the structure. The transparent section rippled, and a doorway formed. An actual door this time, not just a hole in reality. It looked almost inviting, which meant it was probably a trap. Any last advice from those of you who are already stuck in there? I asked Jor and Torres. Do not trust the paths, Jor said. They will try to lead you away from the center. Follow the energy flow. It always goes toward the core. And do not listen to the voices, Torres added. You will hear things, see things. They are not real. Mostly. Probably. That is wonderfully reassuring, I said. Swift checked her rifle one more time. Ready? Ready? Absolutely not, I replied. Let us go. We stepped through the doorway together. The transition was immediate and nauseating. One moment, solid ground. The next, everything tilted. The corridor stretched ahead of us, but ahead was also somehow sideways and behind at the same time. The walls were the color of things that should not have colors. The air tasted like mathematics. Oh, I hate this already, Swift said, her voice strained. Stay close, I ordered. Follow the energy flow like Jor said. I could feel it. A pull. A current running through the structure like blood through veins. It tugged at my senses, trying to lead me in a specific direction. We followed it. The corridor twisted, turned, opened into a chamber that was bigger on the inside than the outside. The walls were covered in more of those ancient markings, glowing with that same painful light. And floating in the center of the chamber was a sphere of pure energy, crackling with power that made my sensors scream. That is not the core, Swift said. That is too easy. She was right. The pull continued past the sphere, deeper into the structure. We kept moving. The corridor split, branched, became a maze of possibilities. But the energy flow stayed constant. We followed it through chambers that defied logic, past doorways that led to places that could not exist, around corners that bent in directions my mind could not process. And we heard the voices. Whispers at first, then louder. They spoke in every language I knew and some I did not. They promised things, offered things, knowledge, power, understanding of the universe. All we had to do was stop, rest, join them in the crossing. Do not listen, I said, more to myself than to Swift. Not listening, she replied, but her voice shook. The path opened into a massive central chamber, and there, at the heart of it all, was the core. It was beautiful, terrible, a swirling vortex of energy suspended in a framework of that same ancient material. Threads of power spiraled out from it, feeding into the walls, into the floors, into reality itself. This was the source. The engine. The thing that powered the crossing between worlds. And surrounding it were figures. Or missing squads. All of them. Tiger Squad. Talon Unit. Dozens of soldiers, human and Caltharian, standing in a circle around the core. Their eyes glowed with that same painful light. Their mouths moved in unison, speaking words that hurt to hear. The crossing continues, they chanted. The walls grow thin. All worlds become one. All times become now. The crossing continues. Well, I said quietly, this is deeply disturbing. How do we shut it down? Swift asked. I pulled out the plasma charges Yenna had given me. Military grade. Enough explosive power to crack a starship hull. We overload it. Cause a feedback loop. The whole thing should collapse. Should, Swift repeated. I am working with limited information here. We moved forward. The figures did not react. They did not attack. Just kept chanting, their voices rising and falling in that awful rhythm. I reached the core. Up close, it was even more intense. The energy output was staggering. Yenna's scanner would have melted trying to measure this. Setting the charges, I said, attaching them to the framework. Detonation timer set for 5 minutes. That should give us enough time to get out. Should, Swift said again. You really need to stop focusing on that word. I activated the timer. 5 minutes. The display began counting down. And that was when the figures attacked. They moved fast. Too fast! Torres lunged at Swift, his hands reaching for her weapon. Jor came at me from the side. Others closed in from all directions. Run, I shouted. We bolted. Back through the central chamber. Into the maze of corridors. The figures followed, their movements jerky and wrong, like puppets with tangled strings. Swift fired her rifle. The kinetic rounds tore through one of the figures, and it collapsed. But it got back up. They all did, kept coming, kept chasing. They are not alive, Swift panted as we ran. They are just constructs. Echoes, noted, still dangerous. The corridor twisted. We took a turn, Mother, following the energy flow in reverse now, trying to trace our path back to the exit. Timer read 3 minutes 40 seconds. A figure dropped from above. Human, female. Wells. She grabbed Swift's leg, yanked her down. I fired my weapon, the plasma bolt catching Wells in the chest. She let go, but more figures were closing in. Get up! Get up! I hauled Swift to her feet. We kept running. The structure was changing now, reacting to the charges. The walls rippled. The corridors shifted. The voices grew louder, angry, screaming at us to stop, to stay, to join the crossing. 2 minutes 15 seconds. We burst into a chamber I recognized, the one with the floating sphere. Getting closer. The exit had to be near. More figures ahead. A wall of them, blocking the path. Through them, I ordered. We charged. Swift went low, I went high. The bodies grabbed at us, pulled at us. But we were real and they were echoes, and real won. We broke through. 1 minute 30 seconds. The corridor straightened. I could see light ahead, actual light. From outside. The doorway. The exit. We ran faster. My lungs burned. My legs ached. But the light got closer. 45 seconds. We hit the doorway at full speed and tumbled through into blessed, normal, Euclidean reality. The squad was there, waiting. Weapons trained on the structure. Charges set. I gasped. 30 seconds. Everyone back to the shuttle. Now. We did not need to be told twice. The squad moved as one, running for the clearing edge, for the jungle, or anywhere that was not right next to an interdimensional bomb. 20 seconds. And the structure began to shake. The humming changed, rose to a shriek that hurt my hearing membranes. 15 seconds. We cleared the smooth metal ground. We hit the jungle, kept running. 10 seconds. Behind us, the other structures began to flicker faster, piecing in and out of existence like strobe lights. 5 seconds. Down, I shouted. Everyone down. We hit the ground. The charges detonated. The explosion was not like a normal explosion. No fire, no shockwave, just light, pure, blinding light that washed over everything. And with the light came a sound, a tearing sound, like reality itself was being ripped apart. I looked back. The original structure was collapsing, not falling. Collapsing in on itself, the material folding, compressing, disappearing into a point of absolute darkness. And as it collapsed, it pulled the other structures with it. One by one, they winked out of existence. Gone, erased, pulled back through whatever door they had come through, and with them went the figures, the echoes, our missing squads. I saw Jor one last time, saw him standing at the edge of the collapsing structure. And for just a moment he looked like himself again. He raised one manipulator in a salute. Then he was gone. The light faded. The sound stopped. The jungle was just jungle again, silent except for the normal sounds of wildlife returning. We lay there for a long moment. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Finally, Swift broke the silence. Did we just blow up 2 squads worth of people? They were already gone, I said quietly. What we saw in there, those were not them anymore. Just copies. Echoes. The real them, they crossed over when they first entered. We just closed the door. You sure about that? No, I admitted. But it is what I am choosing to believe. Cole helped Swift to her feet. Tark pulled me up. We stood together, 9 soldiers who had gone into a mission expecting to find bodies and instead found something so much worse. Well, Tark said eventually, that was exciting. Your definition of exciting needs work, I told him. We made our way back to the shuttle. Voss, the pilot, had kept the engines running. Smart female. As we lifted off, I looked down at the clearing one last time. The smooth metal ground was gone. The structure was gone. Everything was just jungle again, as if nothing had ever been there, except for the equipment. The packs, the weapons. The proof that 2 squads had existed and had died doing their jobs. Back on the orbital station, the debriefing was long and uncomfortable. Commander Voss listened to our report with increasing disbelief. The human command listened via communication link with similar skepticism. But our scanner logs backed up the story. Yenna's recordings proved what we had seen, and the fact that an entire sector had been showing energy readings that suddenly stopped gave our account credibility. In the end, they declared Talon Unit and Tiger Squad as lost in action, casualties of exploration, victims of unknown ancient technology. The sector was marked as restricted, no entry without explicit command authorization. Cole and Swift shook my hand before they shipped back to human space. The ceasefire was holding, maybe even developing into something more. The common enemies, even weird dimensional ones, had a way of bringing people together. If you are ever on Earth, Cole said, look me up. I will buy you a drink. If you are ever on Calthera Prime, I replied, I will do the same. Fair warning, our alcohol is considerably stronger than yours. I will take that as a challenge, he grinned. They left. My squad dispersed to various assignments. Life went on. But sometimes, late at night, I think about Jor, about Torres and Wells and all the others, about what they saw in those twisted corridors, about where they are now, if they are anywhere at all. And I think about those warnings, carved into that ancient structure. The walls between worlds are thin here. Beware the crossing. Somewhere out there in the galaxy, there are more of those structures, more doors, more crossings waiting to happen. I just hope I am never the one who has to close them. But knowing my luck with mission assignments, I probably will be.